So why do we need JavaScript? Okay, so now when HTML and CSS was invented, we know it was basically for displaying contents on the web, right? But then the problem was, people were unable to uh, manipulate the web directly from the client side. Like for example, let's suppose you create a calculator on your page, okay, using HTML and CSS. You created a calculator. Now when you click any particular button, it, let's say I want to add two numbers, okay, so if I want to add two numbers, that numbers should, now to get the addition, some language or some programming language should do that addition, okay, but HTML and CSS does not have that capability, okay, so they are only for displaying stuff, right? So then the only option was to send those two numbers to a backend, okay, like let's say for example your backend is based on PHP, so you will send the contents to PHP and then PHP will add it up and send it back to you, okay. So now just imagine for such a small thing like adding two numbers, you have to every time send your data to the server, then the server will do the addition and send it back to you. Then that will create a big delay in the result, right? So that is why no, people started thinking that no, there should be a programming language for the client also, okay, so the client means the browser also, okay. So that is when JavaScript was invented, and in fact if you have attended my webinar on the programming language that every developer should know, in that I have discussed the history of this, okay. So there I have given basically the advantages of JavaScript and how we can use JavaScript in various different places, okay. Now if you are thinking which language, if you do not have any knowledge of any other language, and if you're thinking that I should learn some language now, then it is better to learn JavaScript than any other language, okay. So the reasons being, you learn one language and it can be applied in all the different places, okay. Like for example, once you know JavaScript, you know everything about front end, okay, so you can learn Angular or React or Vue or in fact jQuery. So all these things you can easily understand because they are based on JavaScript only, okay. Then you can also learn how to create apps using something like mobile apps, like using Quasar, or there are some various other tools which you can use where you can create cross-platform apps with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, okay. So you can also make mobile apps. Then similarly, you can also make desktop apps using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript with the help of Electron.js, okay. Then you, if you're thinking that all this is only for client side, then you can also do uh, server side scripting with the help of Node.js, okay. So once you learn Node.js, then there is as such no need for any other language. For no, usually what happens is you learn JavaScript for the client side, then you learn some other language for the server side like PHP or JSP or ASP or .NET or anything, okay. So this particular thing of learning different languages for different environments was creating a problem, okay. But now you just learn one language, JavaScript, and you can apply it everywhere, okay. So that is the advantage of using uh, JavaScript, uh, learning JavaScript, okay. So now let's start with our JavaScript code, okay. So let's begin quickly. I will not waste time on history so that you can easily get from my webinar. Okay. So let's start with the first week of JavaScript. So JS1. Okay. So the process is simple, same as HTML, CSS. We will open it with VS Code. And then here we can start typing our code, right? So like in the previous case where we designed CSS, HTML, CSS pages, here we are going to do JavaScript, right? So let's first start by creating, always we will start with index.html or any HTML page. Okay. So let's start with index.html. Okay. And let's add a boilerplate. Okay. So once this is done, now I can start this on a live server. Okay. So that will start over here. Okay. So let me take it to the side. Okay. So this is my website. Okay. Where there is nothing actually right now. Okay. And we can start writing JavaScript now. Okay. So basically what I've done is I've just created an HTML file, nothing other than that. Okay. So now how to write an JavaScript. Okay. So basically all you have to do is start a script tag. Okay. So you can just start script tag. Okay. And inside this script tag, whatever you type will be your JavaScript code. Okay. So just for testing whether this works or not, I will just write alert. Okay. And just to show you whether it is working or not, and I will just say hi. Okay. And if I save it, you can see the browser says hi. Okay. With on a alert. So now this is just showing you that, okay, so I can add JavaScript to any page. Okay. Any web page. Only thing I have to do is add this particular tag. Okay. So I have to open and close a script tag, and inside that whatever I will type, that will be my JavaScript code. Okay. Now before HTML5 you had to add sorry, type attribute where you had to write JavaScript, etc. Okay. But now in HTML5 you don't have to write anything. Okay. So you can see you just write script and you say alert hi and you will get the output. Okay. Okay. So once this is done, let's see how we can print uh, the various ways in which we can print something on the screen. Okay. So where the way I usually teach any programming language, or the way you should learn any programming language, is to understand 5 basic things about that language. Okay. So basically how to take basically how to do IO. Okay. IO means input and output. Okay. Then how to handle variables, then how to use operators, then how to use condition operators, conditional statements, etc. Okay. Then conditional statements, you will get understand about the if statements, everything. Okay. If, switch, if else, etc. And then how to understand for loops, or basically loops. And finally how to understand functions. Okay. So these are the 5 things minimum you should know about any language. Okay. Once you know these 5 things, you can do basic programs in that particular language. Okay. But this will be just like, starting point of learning any particular language. Okay. So let us see how to do input output, or basically let's first see how to do output in JavaScript. Okay. So the first method we have already seen, that is alert. Okay. So in here, alert, you can put any string. Okay. So basically alert here is a function. Okay. So we will see more about functions a little later. Okay, but this is the function that is provided by JavaScript, which basically shows you a prompt on your browser. Okay, so if I just come over here and refresh, you can see it generates this kind of a prompt. Okay, so it is showing you some output to the user. Okay, so this is one way of doing it. Second way is the uh, if you look at the current alert way. Okay, so let me just undo it. So in this way, you can see the DOM is not changed. Okay, so now what is the DOM? Okay, DOM means document object model. Okay, so DOM is basically your website. Okay, and your website is not changed. Okay, so basically no nodes are added or no nodes are deleted. Okay, so that is the property of alert. Okay, now let me show you another method, that is document dot write. Okay, so this method, okay, let me comment. Okay, so the way you comment any code is using uh, double slash. Okay, so basically if you know C programming, then you know JavaScript. Okay, so almost everything is same. Okay, in fact, it is much more easier than C programming. So if you are aware of C programming, then this is going to be very easy. Okay, so the way you do comments is just by using slash in the same way as you do it in C. Okay, C programming. So I have commented that particular code, and here I can now write document.write, and here I can say, let's say hello. Okay, now if I save it, you can see now this actually writes the content onto your page. Okay, so this is the difference between alert and document.write. Okay, so this is actually changing your DOM. Okay, so DOM is your page. Okay, so you're trying to change the contents of your DOM. Okay, so let me just try to this is you can also add HTML content also inside this. Like for example, I can add an h1 tag. Okay, and if I save it, you can see it actually puts the h1 content over here. Okay, and let me try to inspect this, and you can see exactly what is happening. Okay, so towards the end of the body, it is trying to put the h1 tag. Okay, that is after whatever is there currently in the body. After that, it is adding the new element. Okay, that is the h1. Okay, now this below code that you see, these two lines, this is injected by the live server, the package that we have used to see the contents, live reload feature. So if you try to open this file directly, let me show you. If I go to WDL and open this file directly in the browser, you can see both the pages are same, but this is opening through the file location and this is opening through a server. Okay, so if I try to inspect this, you will see the difference that there is only this script tag and the h1. Okay, okay, so let's continue. So okay, Rehan. Okay, so next is we have seen how to do output. Now let's see how to do input. So input, basically we will do it once we learn various selectors. Okay, so how to specifically target a particular element on the DOM, that is when we will take the data from there. Okay, so let's say for example there is a text box. Okay, and we want to see what is the data that is entered by the user. Okay, so that we can get with the help of the selector and getting the value of that particular element. Okay, so that is possible, but right now we are not dealing with DOM manipulation, so we are going to skip that part. Okay, and there is another method also which is called prompt. Okay, I will show you that now. Okay, now let's before learning that, let's first learn a little bit about variables. Okay, now variables, variable declaration in JavaScript is absolutely simple. Okay, all you have to do is use the keyword var. Okay, and then give the name of the variable. Okay, and the name of the variable is the naming rules that you have to follow is same as that of C. Okay, so you cannot have a space in between. Okay, that is very important. The variable is case sensitive, and you cannot use a reserved keyword as the variable name. Okay, so that is the few things that you should understand. Okay, so let's take a variable name called x. Okay, and so var x, so this and end it with a semicolon. Okay, so this is how you define a variable. Okay, so or you declare a variable. Okay, after that you can use this variable anywhere in the program. Okay, now there is another way of declaring a variable. It is using this particular keyword, let x. Okay, now both of these techniques are used for defining variables, either var, okay, or let. Okay, and they both have different purposes, and I will explain you the purpose of let and var once we learn, once we go a little ahead, because right now it will not make any sense to explain you what is the difference between let and var. Okay, so just understand this, that we can define a variable with the help of either var keyword or using let keyword. Okay, so we can use both of these syntax. Okay, now let's suppose I want to declare a variable x and assign a value of 10 to it. Okay, so you can see this is how you can do it. Okay, so var x equal to 10. Okay, now here very important thing to understand is there is no data type over here. Okay, so in C, if you remember, there was int x or float x or character x. Okay, so these things are not there in JavaScript. Okay, so you can say it is like auto type. Okay, so whatever value you assign first, okay, or basically whatever value you assign to the variable, whatever is stored over there, that is the type of your variable. Okay, like for example, right now x is equal to 10, that means it is integer right now. Okay, later on if you change it to something else, it will be something else. Okay, so that is very important to understand, that there is no type to be mentioned when you declare a variable. Okay, so you just have to do var x and then you can put the value directly to the variable. Okay, now let's see, is it really stored, what is the value actually stored in x. Okay, so this is how you set the variable, and you can see what is the actual output by doing console log, and you can print the variable. Okay, save it, and let's come over here and refresh it. Okay, so let's do F5 and you can see the value of 10 is displayed. Okay, so this is just to show you that no, the thing that is stored inside the variable x. Okay, next let's say I change the variable name and let's save something like this. Okay, now if I refresh it, and you can see now the variable has Shibu stored in it. Okay, so this is very important to understand, that you can store, there is no data type over here. Okay, so let's see what other things we can do. Let's take a variable called x as 3, then let's take another variable as y as, let's say, 4. Okay, and we want to add these two together. Okay, so to add it, you like any other case, you can either do var, let's say, z is equal to x plus y. Okay, so this is possible, and here you can just print out z. Okay, so same as C, nothing special, and you can see you get the result as 7. Okay, So this is no, similarly you can do any other operations like you can do minus. Okay, so all the operations that were there in C, so all this multiplication, division, everything you can do. Okay, so multiplication, so you get 12. Okay, so all these things you can do. Same as you also have mod. Okay, so mod will give you the remainder, percentage symbol. Okay, so all these things are there which you can try. Then you can also do, there are other operators which all the operators that we have studied in C programming, like greater than, less than, greater than, equal to, less than, equal to, equal to, and double ampersand sign for, you know, checking whether left is equal to right or not. Okay, so sorry, not left, both of the conditions are true or not. Okay, so all these things are there in JavaScript also. Okay, so once you know C programming, then JavaScript will be really easy. Okay, so let's see something slightly different. Okay, we have seen how we can handle variables, how we can handle input output. Let's see some if conditions. Okay, so let's do an if. It is again similar to C programming. Okay, so you can see I have an if statement with round brackets where the condition is going to go, and in the curly braces is where the code is going to be executed. Okay, so let's say I want to print let's say console log. Okay, I want to do console log hello. Okay, so I want to do console log hello, but when I want to do console log hello only when x is greater than 5. Okay, so for that the condition is simple: is x greater than 5? If this condition becomes true, then this particular statement will be executed, otherwise it will not be executed. Okay, so you can see current, in the current scenario, x is, where x value of x is 3, so 3 is greater than 5 is not true. Okay, so this statement should not be executed. Okay, so let's try it out, and you can see uh, you are getting this particular console log. Let me just comment this out. Okay, and let's try it again. You can see there is no output. That is because uh, this particular statement is not true. Okay, so let's now make this as, let's say, 8. Okay, so x is 8. Save it and refresh. Now you can see now the value is printed. Okay, now let's try to make it 5. What will happen when it is 5? 5 greater than 5, is it true or false? It is false, so again you will not get any output. Okay, but if you want uh, it to be true, then you can change this relation to greater than equal to. Okay, so in this case, the value of x, if it is greater or equal to, then this particular code will be executed. Okay, so if I save it and refresh, you can see my code is executed. Okay, so similarly less than is there, so other things are there. Okay, you can also have equal to equal to. Okay, so if you have equal to, then you are basically comparing whether left is equal to right or not. Okay, so in this case the output will be true. Okay, because x is equal to 5 and it is equal to 5, so you will get the output as hello. Okay, so this is how you can use if statement. Okay, now if you want to use if else, okay, if this condition is true, something else, something else. Okay, so again it is same as C programming. You just have to add an else to the end, and you can say world. Okay, and if I try to refresh, you can see it gives me hello, because right now x is equal to 5. Let's change the value of x equal to 6. And now if I refresh, you can see x is not equal to 5 and you get world. Okay. Very good question, Saista. There is no indentation over here. This is nothing like Python. Okay, so you could have put everything inside one line also. It does not matter. Okay, so indentation is not important, but it is always, whether it is C programming or JavaScript or Java or Python, any language, indentation is a must. Okay, so for readability, it is a must, but in Python, it is compulsory. Okay, so you have to do indentation, otherwise your program will give you an error. Okay, but it is not that strict in other languages like Python. Python is very strictly typed, I can say. Okay, so but in our case it is not like that, but still for any language you should have proper indentation. Okay, for all those who do not know what is indentation, is the space that I'm adding uh, after every block. Whenever there is a change in the block, you should add an indentation. Okay, so you can see this is my one block. Okay, so whenever there is an inner block, I am adding an indentation. Okay, so this is if else. Now what if I want to have a nested if else? Okay, so for that you can do is add it to this. Okay, so else, then add a space and then do else if. Okay, and here you can add another condition. Let's say if x is equal to 6, then world, and then you can keep on adding as many as you want. Okay, so you can add else if x is equal to 7, then something. Okay, and finally you can have an else okay, so you can have, let's say, 7 and else. Okay, so I added few else if conditions. Okay, and let's try to refresh it. Right now it is giving you world because my value of x is 6. Let's make it 7 and see. Okay, so it is 7 now. You can see now it is giving me 7, and if it is something else, then it will give me else. Okay, so these are basically the if else statements. Okay, now if you want to have a multi-line comment, then like C programming, you can add a star slash star and end with star slash. Okay, so that will create a comment for the complete block. Okay, so all these lines will be commented. Now let's move ahead and see, look at switch. So switch, like in C, it is the same. So instead of doing such complex if else, if else, if else, it is in such cases you can simply do a switch statement. Okay, so next let us look at switch. So in case of switch statement, it is similar to again um, C programming, right? So you add a switch keyword and then you add round brackets, then you start the block. Okay, and here you have to put the variable which you want to test. Okay, so for example, let's take the variable x again. Okay, so we are going to test for x. Okay, and in case of switch, you are always checking for equal to equal to. Okay, so now you are just going to put the value which you want to test as cases. Okay, so let's take the first case. Okay, so case the first case is for 5. Okay, And when you do this, whatever you put it over here, that will be that will run when the value of x is equal to 5. Okay, so let's, okay, so basically what I'm trying to do is I'm going to implement the same if else using switch. Okay, so you can see with case 5 you add you will run hello. Okay, now let's try to duplicate this a few more times. Okay, and next one will be for 7, sorry, 6 for 7, and the last one will be always default. Okay, so like in case of if else, the last one is else, so similarly this one will be default. Okay, so once you have that, the remaining things is the same. Okay, so let's, and else. Okay, now there is a problem with switch cases. For that we have to use a keyword again after that, that we will see. Okay, so let's see what is the output. Okay, so let's refresh, and you will see that currently the output is else. Okay, the reason is 12, the value of x is 12, and 12 does not match with any of the three cases, so it goes to default. Okay, and that's why it is printing else. But what if the case is 5? Okay, so if I put the case as 5 and if I refresh, you can see it is printing all the cases. Okay, so you can see it is printing hello, world, 7, and else. Okay, so this is because the way switch cases works. Okay, the switch cases, the way it works is it starts matching each of the cases. As soon as it finds a match, then it starts executing all the statements from there onwards. Okay, so like for example, let's say the value of x is 6. Okay, so in this case, it will first check for whether x is equal to 5. So it will not be true. So this particular line will not be executed. But then it will check if x is equal to 6. So yes, it is equal. So this will be executed, and all the following lines will be executed. Okay. So if I save it and if I refresh, you can see the world, 7, and else. Okay, the first one is not executed, other three are executed. Okay, so in some cases this may be what I want, but in many of the cases, maybe 90% of the cases, we don't want such a flow. Okay, so what we want is it should match one particular case, and then it should come out of it. Okay, so for that you have to add something called as break. Okay, so usually in 90% of the cases, after every case you have to add a break, otherwise it will execute all the remaining statements till the end. Okay, so if you see right now, if I refresh, you will see that only world is printed, because after printing world, it is going, it is encountering a break statement. Okay, is it clear till here? Any queries? Uh, Sumit Kumar Moria is asking, sir, if we do x plus plus, then it stores the previous values during the each execution, or it, okay, so that very good question, Sumit Kumar. Basically each time we run this code, it is like a blank paper. Okay, so everything is wiped out and there is nothing, no information of what was there previously. Okay, so if whenever it starts blank. Okay, so it is always doing like for example, as Sumit said, what if I change the value of x? Okay, so let's do x plus plus. Okay, so if I do x plus plus, so what will happen is x value will be increased to 7, right? So that is true only till the end. Okay, so when it reaches the end, it reaches the life cycle, it reaches the end of the life cycle. Okay, so now when it starts again, that means whenever I refresh the page again, it is actually starting from the top. Okay, so when it starts from the top, you can see again your value is stored as 6. Okay, so again it starts from 6, so that is very important. Okay, many of the times you may need to store these things permanently on your uh, PC. So in that cases we have a different approach, so that we will learn a little later, right? But for the time being, you should understand that all these are volatile. Okay, so once you set it, once the life cycle of that JavaScript code is over, that particular variable is dead. Okay, so it is not no longer it will be there. Okay, so again when the program starts, it will again start from the values that you set in the beginning. Okay. Okay, so again I will so one thing to note, like in C programming, you also have increment operators and decrement operators. Okay, so you can use that also. But one thing to note is you don't have to worry about pre and post. There is only post. Okay, so you don't have to worry about those things. Okay, so next we will look at loops. Okay, so we have seen if else, nested if else, switch. Okay, now we will look at loops. Okay, so for loops we can start with for loop. Okay, I always prefer to start with for loops. Again, if you know C programming, the way we initialize for loop is the same. Okay, so there is no much difference over here. Okay, so again the for loop where, okay, so we should have a counter, right? So let's say where I equal to 0. Okay, so we have if you recall, the for loop has 3 different sections inside that. So the first one is the initialization part where you set the values of the counter. Then the second part is where you check the condition, and the third part is where you increment or decrement the counter. Okay, so let's check the condition. Let's run this code for around 10 iterations. Okay, so for that I'm going to do uh, I less than 10. Okay, so if I do I less than 10, it means it will run till 9 only. Okay, so but because I'm starting from 0, right, so 0 to 9 becomes 10. Okay, so 10 iterations. Okay, to make it much more intuitive, we can normally do I equal to 1. We can start from I equal to 1, and here we can do I less than equal to 10. Okay, in this case, you know that the value is going from 1 to 10, so that means 10 iterations. Okay, so it does not make any difference whether you use the first approach or the second approach. But whenever you're dealing with arrays, okay, because the index of the array starts from 0, that is why the previous method is what we normally use. Okay, so after that we can do an increment operator. Okay, so you can do I plus plus, and then over here you can run any code that you want. Okay, for our case I'm just going to do console.log. Okay, and let's simply write hello for the time being. Okay, and print. And now if I refresh, you can see it prints hello 10 times. Okay, now because it is the same value, Chrome, what it does is it tries to combine it and write a counter. Okay, so actually it has printed 10 times, so it is showing you. Okay, now let me try to change it. Now let's see how to use the concatenation operator. Okay, now we have seen when we used addition, like for example, if we do x plus y. Okay, so this actually means you are adding x and y together, right? But if this particular thing was a string, okay, so let me show you what I mean. Okay, so let me uncomment this, and let me, instead of, now let me run this right now and show it to you. Okay, if I refresh, you see I get a value of 10. Okay, so if I change this value to 4, I should get 8. Okay, so this is fine. Now instead of x being a number, if I put the x being Shibu and y being Raj, okay, and now if I add these things together using a plus, let's see what happens. Okay, so now that same plus symbol, instead of adding, it becomes concatenation. Okay, so that is very important to understand. Whenever the variable type is string, the plus is basically concatenation. Okay, concatenation means joining these strings together. Okay, so this is very important to understand. Okay, so let's comment it out, and let's come back over here. And what I want to do is I want to print the value of I for each iteration. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I equal to, okay, so I've just written I equal to. Now this is basically a string. Okay, so this will be printed as it is. Let me show you. So if I refresh, you can see it is just printing I equal to 10 times. Okay. But after this, I want to print the actual value of I. Okay. So for that, you have already explained, you just have to use the plus symbol and the name of the variable, that is I. Okay. And save it and refresh. You can see now, because the text is different, it is not combining it together, and you can see I equal to 1, 2, 3 till 10. Okay. So this is how you can use a for loop. So for loop, you have to understand, there are 3 sets that you have to use. Okay, 3 sections. The first one is initialization. Second one is the, what do you say, condition. And third one is the increment decrement operator. Okay, now the same thing I'm going to apply or do it using while loop. Okay, so the while loop and the do while loop is the same. Okay, so means the same as C programming. Okay, so again, if you remember while loop is nothing but stripped down version of for loop. Okay, so in this case, what we are going to do is only the condition will be there inside the while loop, sorry, inside the round brackets. Okay, and the definition, oh, sorry, declaration will be outside, and the increment will be inside. Okay, so these are the things that you should understand about while loop. While loop and for loop are the same only, but only difference is you use it in this format. Okay, so the increment, sorry, as initialization goes outside, increment decrement comes inside, and the condition is inside this. Okay, and rest everything is the same. The code inside will repeat. Okay, so let me just comment this out first. Okay, and if I refresh, you can see I get the same output. Okay, similarly, I will have do while. Okay, so for do while, it is do over here, while to the end, and save. Okay, so if I save it and refresh, you get the same. Okay, the only difference between while and do while is, in do while, the statement that is there inside, okay, so this will be executed at least once. Okay, that means the checking of the condition is done after the code is executed. Okay, so this block is executed first, and then the particular, what do you say, condition is checked. Okay, but in case of while loop and for loop, the condition is checked first and then the code is executed. Okay, so based on the scenario, you may have to decide which loop do you want. Okay, now it's time to see what is the difference between where and let. Okay, so let me uncomment this. Okay, so you can see I have used where over here. Okay, so where I. Okay, So let me do one thing and come down over here and console log I. Okay. If I save this and let's try to refresh it. Okay. So if I refresh it, you can see my value of I right now is 11. Okay. Because obviously it has incremented, and at the last step, it incremented and then the condition was false. So this particular statement did not execute, but it came over here and it executed this. Okay. Now let me change this var to let now. Okay. And see what is the difference. Okay. So I've changed the var to let, and now let me refresh. Okay. So now you can see the difference. The difference is it is saying that I is not defined. Okay. So this is very important to understand that what is the difference between var and let. Okay. So whenever you do let means it is defining a variable inside that scope only. Okay. So the scope right now is the for loop. Okay. So you can access I inside the for loop, but you cannot access it outside the for loop. Okay. So whenever you want a particular variable to be limited to a particular block of code, you will always prefer to use let. Okay. And if you want that particular variable to be accessible, everywhere in the code, then you will put it as var. Okay. Now the advantage of another thing about var is, now let's suppose I initialize, let's say this is var. Okay. I do var I equal to 1 and it does something, and then I do var again and I do I equal to 4. Okay. So you can see I have now var 2 times var for the same variable. Okay. So I am initializing the variable twice. Now if I save it and if I refresh, you can see it works. Okay. So there is no problem as such. You can declare var any number of times for the same variable. Okay. So it is not going to create any issue, right? But in real world scenario, one variable should be declared only once, right? But this particular thing creates a problem. Just imagine you have multiple files that you're working on, and somewhere if something changes and you use the same name for your code and the other code is also using the same variable name, then if you try to reinitialize the same variable, it will create a big problem, right? But let us see what happens if you use let. Okay. uh, okay, let me take example of okay, let me take this outside, otherwise the scope will not be there. Okay. So right now I have declared var outside the for loop, because if I replace it by let, anyhow it is going to not work. Okay. So I have taken the var outside. You can see I have defined var over here and var over here. Okay. Var I. So same variable is declared twice. Okay. So let me try to refresh. So there is no error. Now let me change this to let. Okay. And again here, change it to let. So now the same variable is defined twice, but with the help of let. Okay. So let's see the difference. So you can see now, no, let is much more, better in handling such kind of a situation. Okay. So this is a very good approach. So nowadays everybody is trying to switch to let that rather than var. Okay. Because let can be declared only once, and this helps the developer, because many times what happens is your JavaScript code will be very long, like 1,000 words. Okay. 1,000 lines of code. And you tend to forget what were the name of the variables you used before. Okay. And when you come down, it is possible that you will use the same name again and you use var I. Okay. And what happens is you completely destroy the initial data of the variable data, and you initialize it with new data. That will create a big problem. But if you use let, it will not allow you to re-declare the variable. Okay, so that way you understand that, okay, this variable is declared somewhere else, so I have to change the name of the variable. Okay, so that thing is a very good feature of let. Okay, so I think that is it for today. If you have any queries, then let me know. Are there any queries? Semicolon is not necessary, but as a uh, no habit, I always add it. Okay, in JavaScript, it is not necessary.